Yes, sir. We're officially back at it. This is Boog Nice coming at you with the Marvel Legends Retro Collection Green Goblin figure review. Let's do it.
This ain't for no scalper. You a scalper? Then fuck out shit. This one's for them real collectors. That's army building and posing figures. Marvel Legends, imports, mini matey, I'm fucking with them. Hype beast, we know about you. Stay buying figs, don't know about it.
6 figures in the wave. You're going to need all 6 figures because you can't pass up on an opportunity to own these figures. None of the figures come with the Build-A-Figure part, however, but what could be considered the Build-A-Figure will be released on its own in November. Alright, here we go. Norman Osborn, aka the Green Goblin. His bio on the back of the package reads, "One of the few who knows that Spider-Man is really Peter Parker, the Green Goblin is perhaps the web-slinger's greatest foe." The Green Goblin was first introduced in The Amazing Spider-Man number 14 in July of 1964, created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. The guy under the mask is most notably known as Norman Osborn. However, Harry Osborn, Bart Hamilton, and Phil Urich have all taken on the Green Goblin persona. Like Peter Parker, Norman Osborn has genius level intellect. He's a skilled engineer. In fact, he engineers pretty much all of his own weaponry, the Goblin glider, the pumpkin bombs, and I guess he engineered this outfit as well. I guess he's a seamstress as well. And because of his dabbling in his own Goblin formula, he was granted superhuman strength and speed and agility and durability, and he is a formidable foe for Spider-Man, and probably why the bio on the back of the package referred to him as Spider-Man's greatest foe. The mention of Green Goblin being one of the few that knows Spider-Man's identity kind of brings me back to my childhood. As most of you know, I started collecting comic books in like 1990, and one of the first books that I bought was X-Men #1, that Jim Lee X-Men #1. However, around that time, my dad kind of revealed to me that he had been collecting comics when he was a kid, and he broke out this old like suitcase. I can distinctly remember the smell of the suitcase and the comic books, you know, that old comic book paper. And he broke out this suitcase, and all of the comics were like in terrible condition, but he had a bunch of comics from the 1960s, and one of the comics that he had was The Amazing Spider-Man number 39, that iconic cover where Peter Parker is unmasked, or Spider-Man is unmasked on the cover, and the Goblin has him captured and holding him in some type of snare flying over the city. And my dad had a lot of like really iconic comic books from that time, just not many of them were in good condition, unfortunately. But that, coupled with Jim Lee's modern art, really just kind of catapulted me into collecting comic books and into, you know, comic book lore. And I think that also put me on a path as Spider-Man being one of my favorite heroes at that time too. I read all of those old comic books in that condition back in those days, and going over some of these figures from this line and going back to some of those comic scans to put into these videos has been super nostalgic. But yeah, all right, enough down memory lane. Let's look at his accessories. So not much new here as far as the design. Now we do have one thing that's packed in with him that I'm sure you guys are eager to see in action, or see me kind of mess around with. But as far as this design, this is something that we've had like thrice over, if I'm not mistaken. We first kind of got this buck set up in this kind of design or deco with this little textured portion on the arms and legs with the Space Venom Build-A-Figure Wave Hobgoblin figure. And once we got that Hobgoblin figure, we knew that a Green Goblin was soon to come. And sure enough, in the same year, we got Green Goblin and the Sandman Build-A-Figure Wave. So here we are again in the retro wave. Pretty much the same buck, same design, just a different deco. Now I do see that it looks like they added this portion here. This little collar is actually a separate part, and I don't believe that was on the previous Green Goblin figure. So they kind of completed this look here where it looks like, you know, this is a suit and this is the collar of his shirt, which was cool. But you know, it's kind of a pain in the ass to get that to stay down and to sit flush and to look right. They changed up the head sculpt, and this looks kind of nuts. I will admit, I guess as a mask, it does look kind of frightening. I mean, you know, he's like Halloween themed, and he's supposed to be a scary looking dude when he's in this costume. This definitely lends to his persona. You know that Norman Osborn is a little wacko. So yeah, if you want to consider this part an accessory, I guess you can. It is a separate part. His little his little man purse is an accessory as well. I mean, you can take this off, and this is a sculpt, a design that we've been getting for some years now. Obviously, the head can be popped off. But before we get into that, let's take a look at his little pumpkin bomb that he's packed in with. It looks like it's lit. And this is a design that we've received before. I saw somebody comment that he should have been packed in with 2, but I guess if you got the previous Green Goblin, you can kind of get him double wielding the pumpkin bomb here. Yeah, there he is, double fisting, dual wielding. It is kind of a challenge to get them fixed into his hand and have them upright, but this is the one that was packed in with this figure in his right hand, and then this is the one that was packed in with the Sandman Build-A-Figure Wave Green Goblin in his left hand. Looks to be exactly the same. And then there were some other variations of the pumpkin bomb packed in with Hobgoblin and I think one other figure. I can't remember off the top of my head, but you can see how those vary. The one in his right hand is a little darker, and this one is a little lighter in his left hand. And I guess if you wanted to do like some still motion and have like varying degrees or varying stages of the bomb before it explodes, then you could definitely dig into your A.C.B.A bag and do that. He's also packed in with his glider, and this looks to be the same design that we got with the Sandman Build-A-Figure Wave Green Goblin. However, I see some differences on the underbelly of this glider, and the color is slightly different as well, but it looks like it's the same sculpt for the most part. I'll break out quite a few different gliders and give you some comparisons of the gliders over the years. I'm not really feeling these newer designs on the glider though. I think it's the old Toy Biz version that kind of nailed the classic look of the glider. Again, I'll break that out shortly. So if you look on the underbelly here, you see this little circular port, and I thought that you'll be able to fit this glider onto the little stand that was packed in with the Demo Goblin Build-A-Figure, and nope, you cannot. It does not fit. These portions on the stand are just a little too large for that port, unfortunately. I don't know why they wouldn't fix that, where you could, you know, integrate something else here to get them up on the stand. I just had them up on the A.C.B.A flight stand all of this time too. And by the way, flight stands will be up for pre-order maybe on the 4th of July. So, shameless plug. And his final accessory is an unmasked head sculpt. This is something that collectors have been wanting for quite some time. The last unmasked Norman Osborn head sculpt we got was from the Toy Biz Onslaught Build-A-Figure Wave Green Goblin. So there are tons of collectors out there who have never seen that figure, been able to buy that figure. There are people who are like 15 or 16 years old right now that was like 2 or 3 when that came out. So finally we got an unmasked Norman Osborn head. I don't know how I really feel about this one. It's okay. It's a good sort of neutral head sculpt, because the one that we got back in the day was his sort of manic state. He looked nuts. I'll break that out shortly. You know, with Norman Osborn, the thing that you really need to nail is the hair. We know he's got the iconic hair, the only white boy we know with waves. They tried to depict it here. Sometimes his hair looks like it's red in the comic books, although it's supposed to be brown. They did give him a few little waves here. I think they could have really dug a little deeper here, put a better sculpt on the hair. But the face actually looks pretty good. I do think it resembles Norman Osborn. It's okay. It's decent. And Marvel, what's good? You guys need to put out a line of do-rags in the Disney store with Norman Osborn's face on it. Do it. And yes, this old one pops right onto the peg. No issues. I'm pretty sure that you had to do some work to get it off of that old Green Goblin body. There was a variant. There was the regular release, and then there was the variant that had the unmasked head. But I think what I did with the variant was take the head and then I sold the body, if I'm not mistaken. And just real quick, a couple of comments on this deco. So this is like really, really green, like lime green. And I'm not really a fan of this. It's like some like Street Fighter variant color or something. I don't know what they were going for here. I'm not really a fan of this deco. I think the Sandman Build-A-Figure version was sort of like a modern look. They were going for a specific artist's rendition of Green Goblin. And I still don't think that we have the good classic colors for Green Goblin like we saw on that Spider-Man cover way back in the 60s. And I think the old Toy Biz version is that color. So I'll break him out now. All right, so digging in the crates a little bit here. On the left is the old Toy Biz Sinister 6 box set Green Goblin. And you can see how crazy that looks in terms of the sculpt, but there are some decent paint applications in there. I guess there is some good dry brushing, there is some good detail, but the sculpt and design of this figure is nuts. And then on the right is the Onslaught Build-A-Figure Wave Green Goblin, which still looks very damn good. And again, I do feel like this is closer to the classic comic book look as far as the color, the design. We need that just kind of upscaled a bit because you can see he is a little on the small side. That was an issue with Toy Biz back in those days too, was that their scaling was just all over the place. But this new Green Goblin, it looks like a toy. It doesn't look as detailed as I know Hasbro can make this figure. I think they really need to go back to the drawing board on this one. But an interesting detail about the old Sinister 6 box set version was the look of the head sculpt. These goggles here look really, really cool. I always thought that was a cool feature. But this looks like a guy's face painted rather than a guy in a mask. And again, Toy Biz with this weird articulation scheme. Look at these butterfly joints. That looks insane. But in terms of gliders, here's the glider that came with that figure that I just showed, the Sinister 6 box set version. Pretty basic. I guess I kind of like this, but there was really nowhere for you to get this propped onto a stand or anything like that. You would have to use like a A.C.B.A stand and just kind of stick it up in the pelvic area or what have you. But that's one design. And you can see the difference in the looks of the pumpkin bombs between the old and the new. The Toy Biz pumpkin bomb looks like it's some real tech, like it's mechanical or like it's a metal sort of object or hard plastic or something like that. And the newer version does not have that look. Unfortunately, you couldn't remove the pumpkin bomb from the hand of the Toy Biz Green Goblin. I mean, you could, but you know, it would leave a mark there. And there's a look at the old Toy Biz Onslaught Build-A-Figure Wave Series Green Goblin glider. And like I said, this definitely looks much more accurate to the old school look and design. You can see how it's got that curvature here and where his feet should be implanted. Got a little dust on here. But yeah, I thought I'd break this out before I get into the modern looks for Green Goblin from Hasbro. And it should be noted that this broke down. This is a stand that it's on actually. So you can take the base apart. That's 2 parts. And this you could prop up on whatever type of stand you want. So you could kind of hide it in different ways if you wanted to. You know, it is a mission to kind of get them up there, but on a different stand, I mean, but it's possible. Move those guys out of the way, but yeah, this works. The stand is not actually in the underbelly. It's planted into like his pelvic area, but you know, it's just angling. Certain angles you could make it work. You could get him kind of clutching the front of the glider. Man, I really do like the old Toy Biz glider. We still not quite there yet though. We need a really super articulated Goblin, update on Goblin, and then the right glider. If you were lucky enough to have the old Toy Biz Green Goblin and you still have this glider, cherish it, hold on to it. And there's some comparisons with the modern Goblins. So on the left is the Space Venom Build-A-Figure Wave Hobgoblin figure who wore it first and wore it best in my opinion. I think this design here looks the best on Hobgoblin. And then on the right is the Sandman Build-A-Figure Wave Green Goblin. And you can see how he differs from this newer Retro Wave Green Goblin. Head sculpts are different. And the Sandman version does not have the little collar piece, but for the most part they are all the same buck. And here's the very tiny glider that came with the Hobgoblin figure. You can see how small it is in comparison to the Green Goblin glider. I don't know what they were thinking with the size here. I mean, the Hobgoblin was released first and then they went with the larger glider for Green Goblin, but I still think this was even small. And look at this blast from the past. This is the old Toy Biz Hobgoblin. Look how detailed that face is. That looks great. I think they did a better job of the texturing on these portions on the Hasbro Marvel Legends version. The fact that they gave you 2 head sculpts with the Hasbro version was nice too, but listen, Toy Biz still has some gems. They still have some gems for sure. And look at the glider that was packed in with that Hobgoblin. Really nice paint. The smoke effect is actually articulated. You can rotate it. Only thing that would have taken this over the top is if you could remove the smoke effect, I guess, but this was really cool. No real way for you to plug in any stand or anything, but again, you could use a A.C.B.A flight stand back in those days still too. And look at this old gem, the old Toy Biz Spider-Man Classics Hobgoblin. I think he was originally released in the Spider-Man Classics line and then got a re-release when Hasbro took over, if I'm not mistaken. I'm 99% sure it was released twice, but you can see this is the same buck as that old Sinister 6 box set. Green Goblin. You know, they've been doing this for years. Look at all the detail though on this cloak. All those like rips and tears, and that really captures that old school, really demonic looking hobgoblin. And you could actually remove the sack off of his face and reveal this wild looking head sculpt. And look at the glider that hobgoblin was packed in with. Crazy detail. Really extravagant design, but it really looks like a metallic sort of contraption. They did a good job on the paint here. And another blast from the past, the old Spider-Man classics, Jack-O-Lantern. I broke him out because he is another individual that used Goblin tech, if I'm not mistaken. He uses a glider, so I broke him out just to break out his glider. And there's a look at that. And moving forward into more modern stuff here from Hasbro. So in the back on the left is the Red Goblin figure, which I thought was just atrocious. Now, I do like the way the design of that character looks in the comic books. This is Norman Osborn with the Carnage symbiote attached to him, by the way. But the figure had some crazy mechanics. They put that long tail on him, and you couldn't articulate the tail. And they didn't give him a glider. This is the old hobgoblin glider that you see that I have him fixed on back there. And then on the back and the right is the Demo Goblin Build-A-Figure, which I thought was a really good Build-A-Figure. They gave him his glider, they gave him a base. Shout out to my man James Whitfield, who hooked me up with the articulated cloak there, the cape with the bendy wire in it. So that's what you see there. And then you can see this Retro Series Green Goblin here in the front. And I never did that. And obviously first time for this. And I know a lot of you wanted to see this. This is the old Ironmonger Iron Man Build-A-Figure Wave Iron Patriot body, which I always thought was a little small, but this head does pop on the body, and I guess you could kind of use it for some perspective stuff. We still need a complete, updated, modern Dark Avengers. Modern old Dark Avengers, because Dark Avengers is pretty old by now, but we need them with the modern take on Hasbro's articulation and style, and we definitely need that. I would like to see an Iron Patriot that's about the same size as the all new, all different Iron Man, and then yeah, we'll be able to pop this head on there, and I guess use the crazy head from the old Toy Biz days as well. But this how that looks. So I'm not even going to go over the articulation. You guys are fully familiar with the articulation on this buck. I will say that the head and neck articulation is great, especially when you get him in some like crouching poses and you want to put his head forward. It should also be noted that the gloves, the cuff of the gloves are like a separate part, but like the cuffs on the, I think, Morph figure, you may have to really heat it up to get it off of there. It would be a nice little thing to do if you could take the entire glove off and have him ungloved and, you know, make it seem like he's kind of getting dressed in his outfit or something like that. It's possible, but again, you would have to apply some serious heat to those forearms. Like I said, I do want to see a brand new buck for a Green Goblin. We still not there just yet, but let me do some more comparisons here. And there he is with the Spider-Man from this wave on the far left. I'll get them closer together, but a lot of people have been asking about putting the unmasked Norman Osborn head on the Professor X body. He looks a little smaller than his alter ego, all decked out in the costume. And then there's the Iron Patriot armor. Like I said, that armor should definitely be larger. And then on the right is the Sandman Build-A-Figure Green Goblin. I didn't really mention the Dark Reign era, but that was Norman Osborn at his best, I guess, or his worst, really. But that whole era, when he was actually like the director of Thunderbolts after the Skrull invasion, that whole run of Thunderbolts was phenomenal. And then leading up into Dark Avengers, all of that stuff was good. I always talk about those stories. You should definitely go back and read them. So that's when you would have Norman in a suit mostly during those days before Dark Avengers, the Thunderbolts run. Here's a close look at the unmasked head on the Professor X body. And it pops on there. It fits really nicely for the most part. See a little bit of gappage in the back, but you know, you retain all the articulation. And just for a Norman in a suit, I think this looks decent. And there's Spider-Man side by side with Green Goblin. So as far as the size goes, I think that looks okay. As I mentioned in the Spider-Man review, he's supposed to be about 5'10". I do believe Osborn is taller than Spider-Man. On the left over there is the Mary Jane head that was packed in with Gwen Stacy on the old Mary Jane body from the 2-pack. And then you can see Gwen Stacy there right next to Green Goblin. And then the Peter Parker figure with the unmasked Peter head I think that's the head that came with the 2-pack Spider-Man, if I'm not mistaken. And I think somebody had inquired about this, but this is the PS4 Spider-Man head on the retro Spider-Man body. A little large, but some people prefer larger eyes for Spider-Man, so maybe you can make this work. The web pattern is not exactly how it should be as far as matching up with this particular body, and the head is a little larger than the stock heads. And there's the 2-pack Spider-Man head. You know, the eyes and the emblem on that Spider-Man's chest is different. That was a more modern look for Spider-Man when he was running Parker Industries, if I'm not mistaken. Looks a little small. And there's an idea of how that might look with a Spider Sense effect with the Spider Sense head from the Peter Parker figure on the retro Spider-Man body. And this effect is actually from my man Kev from Toying Around X Hype Faction. Check them out for your nerd apparel. And yeah, this looks pretty cool. And a quick shot of all of those side by side. I've been meaning to break out this Nuke body for the longest without any shirt or vest on. And then again, the Spider-Man with the Spider Sense head and effect. Effect sold separately. Green Goblin, Gwen, Peter Parker, all of those stacked up. And last one here, and I'm going to get up out of here, but I broke out the Lizard Build-A-Figure, one of my favorite Build-A-Figures from whatever year that was that it was released. He's crouching real low there. You know, you couldn't really get him to stand all the way upright, but I think my man Punker Mike had a mod where you could fix that and get him to stand up more. If I'm remembering that correctly, a link for that will be in the description below. And then some stuff from Dark Reign. That's the Monster Venom Build-A-Figure. During that time, that was Mac Gargan as Venom, and he was part of the Thunderbolts program, as was Bullseye. Both of them ended up graduating to Dark Avengers, to the big leagues, and you can see Norman there, how he stacks up with those. And I think that all looks good. So Green Goblin here is not that great, honestly. I mean, this is probably one in a wave that I say you can probably pass up on. It's not absolutely necessary. However, a lot of people are going to want the unmasked Norman Osborn head, so really, I guess you can't pass up on it. You know, it's really just the colorway. It's really just this deco that is not really that attractive, or I don't think is going to be that popular with collectors. But for the accessories and for the ability to do some deeper, darker A.C.B.A, then I would say go ahead and pick them up. So some more comparisons and swaps and all of that stuff will bleed over into the next review. That's how I keep you guys' attention and get you onto the onto the next review. So stay tuned for that. Up next will be Electro. Thanks for hanging out. As always, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell down there. And until next time, peace.
That's crispy.